as I did, I think a really valuable resource at the U of R is the Tech Transfer Office. It might be volunteering, but even if you can get a couple hours in a week where you are reviewing invention disclosures and learning about what makes something patentable, and reviewing the disclosures and seeing if it meets that requirement, to the extent you can, doing prior art searches, becoming familiar with a patent application and the patent prosecution process. I mean, that would be really valuable experience and really put you ahead of, other candidates that don't have that same experience.
Hello and welcome to another live career discussion here on the School of Medicine and Dentistry LinkedIn channel. I'm Jeff Kozlowski. I'm a marketing communications manager supporting our graduate education and postdoctoral affairs office. It's a pleasure to have keep this series going and excited to have Carissa Childs with us today. She's a 2005 Toxicology program alum here at U of R and now senior IP counsel at Amgen, and she is based here in Rochester. Carissa, thank you so much for joining.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And there was a brief introduction there at the top, but if you could maybe expand a little bit on that introduction and let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I, as Jeff mentioned, I am a senior IP counsel at Amgen. Amgen is a global, relatively large biopharmaceutical company. They're headquartered in Thousand Oaks, California, but have sites throughout the U.S., Puerto Rico, Canada, and worldwide. I'm a part of their IP prosecution team in their law department. Amgen has its own law department with various different law functions. I'm in the IP department, and I focus on doing patent prosecution, which are all the steps leading up to obtaining patent protection, intellectual property protection for the various inventions arising in the course of work that is being done at Amgen. So, for example, I support one of our programs in the immuno-oncology group, and it's a preclinical, early stage bispecific antibody that's being developed to treat cancer patients. So I sit in on the team meetings. I learn all about, the development struggles and successes and how that, the therapeutic is coming along, decide when we should file our first patent application. And then I develop and implement, a global patent strategy to protect this asset as it moves forward and, hopefully into the clinic and in treating patients one day. So I have various programs that I support in doing the same task. I also do a lot of client counseling, and client here at Amgen are scientists. So for example, last 2 weeks ago, I was up at our site in Vancouver, where we house our humanized mouse model that generates our therapeutic antibodies. And I'm talking to the scientists there about new technologies, improvements that they want to implement into our platform for antibody generation. And it's my job to make sure we can implement those changes that they'd like, those improvements, that we aren't impinging on someone else's IP rights. And if, do we need a license? Do we need a collaboration? How can we get this new technology that our scientists are thinking is going to be helpful into working for us? And I talk to them then also about what sort of IP that may generate for us and how we might want to protect that as well. So I have kind of various different roles, all of which are to me, very interesting, very science-based still, and always, I'm always learning on the job.
So let's go back, I guess, a few years, and can you talk a little bit about just how you discovered U of R and sort of what ultimately made you want to attend for your PhD?
Sure. My career path has been very windy, but as I like to think of it, it's been one where I've kept my eyes open to different opportunities. And so I started as down in, well, I'm from Wisconsin. I went down to Florida, Eckerd College, for a degree in marine biology. And after finishing that degree, that 4-year degree, realizing the job opportunities were kind of slim, and and that I probably needed to obtain further education. So I went on to looking for a PhD program that would build upon marine biology, and specifically I was looking for marine toxicology to some extent, and was following a particular researcher and who worked at MIT Woods Hole. And I thought, well, I'm going to apply to the program and work with him. But as a backup, because that was a little bit of a stretch for me, I'm going to apply to the school where he went. And he was Dr. Mark Hahn. He had attended the University of Rochester and worked in Tom Gishevitz's lab at the School of Medicine and Dentistry. And so I also applied to the University of Rochester and a few other schools. But when I had to make a decision in looking at the program, and the Tox program at the U of R was tremendous, right? There's funding available because they're on the Tox training grant. There was a lot of interesting research that I thought I would, a lot of interesting research going on, many labs choices that I thought would be something of interest for me to become a member of. They had the rotation, so you're able to do, check out various labs and research before making a commitment. So there was just a number of pluses in the box for U of R. That's what made me, decide to join the program, the Tox program there.
And so, talking a little bit about the graduate school experience, I think in some of our conversations leading up to today, you mentioned there was one sort of event or that you attended while you were a grad student here, and you met somebody, and that kind of changed your ideas for a career path, if you will. You kind of saw a new interest developing. Can you in what kind of made you decide to go the legal route? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So as I started the program at the U of R, my aspirations for marine mammal toxicology started dissipating. But I opened because U of R opened my eyes to so many other opportunities. And I think I learned going through academia that future in academia probably wasn't right. So I was certainly seeking out other opportunities. And I had attended a Graduate Women in Science meeting where Claudia Stewart was presenting, and Claudia was at the time a senior licensing associate at the U of R tech transfer office. And so I found her job and how she described what she was doing fascinating. I had no idea that there was a tech transfer office and what it did. And so I, after the meeting, spoke to her for a while. And from there, spoke to the director of the tech transfer office, and ended up securing a 3-month internship where I could go in and really learn all about tech transfer at the University of Rochester. And so if you're not aware, the tech transfer office is where scientists, researchers submit what they believe might be an invention that's worthy of patenting or commercializing that's arising from their work in the lab. And so we would review, my job as an intern was to review the invention disclosures that came in, kind of assess them for patentability. So I learned a lot about, IP law there, and also assess them for commercialization, I should say, because that's kind of your reason for obtaining a patent, right? You want to protect what your technology is so that you can, in your attempts to commercialize it, you can protect it from others from commercializing the same invention. So it was a great opportunity to learn all of that, the process of patenting and commercializing technologies that arising from university work. I got to see kind of the IP process because the portfolio at the U of R is rather large. They have early stage patent application filings to issue patents, so I could see the whole stage of patent prosecution. Work with various attorneys that the university worked with, so got a feel for what they were doing, and then again what we were doing in the office. So it really intrigued me and kind of changed my mind again in terms of what I wanted to pursue as a final career choice.
Was there much of a pivot there you had to make once you made that decision, or was it just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to go to law school now?
Right, no, so I did start to investigate what what I could do from there. I could have certainly continued to work in the tech transfer office. For me, I enjoyed the intellectual property part of the job more so than like the business development, finding the partner for the technology and bringing it forward. And I happened to, again, by luck, happened to get a call from one of the local attorneys that we worked with in the office. And they were looking to expand their IP group by adding a patent agent. So there's patent agents and there's patent lawyers. As a patent agent, you don't need to go to law school. You can do all aspects of patent prosecution, which again is drafting an application, seeing it through the patent office, through the prosecution periods, the examination of the application, the back and forth with the examiner, to the issuance of the patent. So you can do all that as a patent agent. You basically are trained on the job. You're bringing a lot of your scientific knowledge to the table to help with that process. So I took that opportunity to join that IP group and decided at that point, because at that point my internship had extended into a longer term. So I decided at that point that I did want to go to law school, because to me that did open up some additional opportunity in the law career field if I wanted it. So I did make that decision then to go to law school and work part-time for the local law firm as a patent agent.
So moving on, I mean, it sounds like, so then, you don't necessarily, I guess, what are the options like for, a PhD student in a biomedical science field that thinks, okay, well, maybe I do want to go the legal route, but they may think, well, that means I have to go to law school, but that's not necessarily the case. Is there a good kind of list of options without that law degree?
I think so, yes. So like I mentioned, patent agent is where you can get into the IP field without having to pursue a law degree. So, we had patent agents working, typically patent agents work at a law firm. So you'll work with an IP group, you'll work with attorneys, and you will work right alongside the attorneys doing basically a lot of the same stuff associate attorneys do, drafting applications, responding to office actions, working with the inventors to understand the technology, so you can do all those things, draft the application and prosecute it through the patent office. As a patent agent, I also had the opportunity to work on kind of the litigation end, where you're either enforcing a patent or trying to maybe invalidate someone else's patent. So you may work with experts in the field to draft affidavits that explain, why a technology that has patented and issued patent shouldn't have been, didn't meet the requirements of patentability. Or perhaps you're working with an inventor to explain, why your technology does meet the requirements of patentability. So you're able to do all the aspects of patent prosecution. And again, you're usually working along with attorneys, but you can become experienced such that you don't even need to have working with attorneys. You can work on your own. You pass the patent bar, you have your own registration. But that is where your kind of job role will end. As an attorney, you are able to go to do a few additional things. You can render legal opinions on validity or infringement. You can do more litigation work. You can lead litigation. You can, counsel clients on different legal issues, whereas as a patent agent cannot. So the difference then, of course, other differences are in pay. So you have opportunity for higher pay and maybe climb the ladder a little bit more as an attorney than as a patent agent. But you also have, I think, a little less stress level as a patent agent than a patent attorney, right? You don't have the same billable hour requirements in the law firm environment as a patent agent versus an attorney. You always have to do more work on the attorney end. I think historically there hasn't been as much opportunity for patent agents outside of law firm environment, but at Amgen now we have patent agents working alongside us, again, doing all the prosecution work. So I think that opportunities for patent agents has expanded. So I think that's really great, because I really enjoy, I was a patent agent myself. It was great training for patent attorney, but again, we're all kind of doing the same work. Yeah.
And so, you hit on this earlier, in mentioning that there's still a lot of science involved in what you do. So, it sounds like, in your PhD training, you were, because you went this route, in your particular role, you use a lot of what you learned in your PhD on a daily basis, and you're still learning, it sounds like. But it does sound like there's still plenty of science involved in the work you do.
Definitely. I mean, when I was working with a law firm, I worked primarily with university inventors, but so I'm working with, researchers that are doing frontline, science that's going on right now in the labs, and trying, needing to understand it, and needing to understand not only the basic science questions that they've answered, but also how we can apply that, extend its application broader, and what are the commercial aspects of that science. So, and in that role, when you're working for a law firm, you often will cover a much broader range of technologies, right? I mean, my training was in toxicology, which was a really great base to learn a lot of pharmacology, physiology, a little bit of neuroscience, learn a lot about various different aspects of biology and biopharmaceuticals, because I worked on vaccine development, I worked on cell culture methods. I even worked on printer technologies, which was completely unrelated, but you get exposed to a wide range of different technologies that you need to be able to be conversant in. So you need to be able to pick up whatever that the scientist has provided to you and understand it and learn about it, learn about what else is out there to the extent you don't know about it. You need to get up to speed as quickly as you can. And at Amgen, I'm definitely more focused. I work on large molecule therapeutics, but it's a much deeper dive into that science. I thought I knew a lot about antibody therapeutics in, practicing and working with universities over the last 10 to 15 years, but I'm on a daily basis learning a whole lot more, that there's more to what makes an antibody manufacturable and stable and suitable to be, used in humans. So yeah, every day I learn something new in the realm of science, which I love, because I'm learning all of this, cutting edge science. But I'm not at the bench trying to do it myself, because I wasn't the best at that. So you have to find your strengths, right? And you have to go with your strengths.
You certainly found your strengths. One thing I just thought of, Carissa, we talked a little bit about in grad school attending events. I think one in particular you went to, I want to say it was a Graduate Women in Science event. Is that right? Yeah. So any tips for how to further take advantage of the graduate school experience for our current trainees, to kind of, whether it's, reassuring yourself that this is the path I want to go down, or just kind of opening your mind to new possibilities? It sounds like, going out to those events was really beneficial to you. Anything else you would say as far as, stepping out of your everyday graduate work? Oops.
So I know it was, nearly 20 years ago when I was at the U of R, and there was definitely a move towards opening, exposing the graduate students to other opportunities. But I think that has expanded tremendously, right? With, this event right here. I've attended other events where, you're showcasing, the U of R does a great job in showcasing all sorts of opportunities that alumni have stepped into. And so I think attending any and all of those is a really great opportunity, because not only are you learning about, other opportunities, you're also connecting with alumni who are an invaluable resource for trying to, make that move into a different area. In our field, for one huge benefit of obtaining a job is to have a referral, right? So what I mean by that is, when we have a job posted, if our company was to receive a referral from a current employee, that would be much more highly regarded, and a foot into the door over any other candidate, right? Because you already have some vetting of that candidate. So using alumni to reach out to, make relationships with, in a connection with, get their, their advice, their career advice, get some understanding of how they got to where they are, or any knowledge that they can share with you. I think that our alumni are just a really valuable resource for trying to make decisions based on where you want to, your next career move yourself.
And if I know there's many tips that we could think of, but if you had a top tip for somebody about to jump into the job search, what would that be?
In addition to reaching out to alumni and taking advantage of that resource, I think that to the extent you can get any type of experience, it's very helpful. When we, at the firm, when we were interviewing candidates for patent agent, it was always helpful to hear that they had read a patent application, or they had some sort of experience in the patent prosecution process. And so that's hard if you're not in the, if your science itself isn't something that, you pursued a patent application for. But as I did, I think a really valuable resource at the U of R is the tech transfer office. And, it might be volunteering, but even if you can get a couple hours in a week where you are reviewing invention disclosures and learning about what makes something patentable, and reviewing the disclosures and seeing if it meets that requirement, to the extent you can, doing prior art searches, becoming familiar with a patent application and the patent prosecution process. I mean, that would be really valuable experience and really put you ahead of, other candidates that don't have that same experience in any sort of law firm setting, which is basically where you do need to start a career in this field. And that's where, law firm will train you for patent agent and even patent attorney, and help you, get a good footing in terms of then, perhaps working for a company or government.
All right. Well, Carissa, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for all the information. I guess one last thing I wanted to ask was just if folks watching this want to connect with you after this event, how should they do that?
Sure. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone that has interest in this career field. You can reach out to me through the LinkedIn, send me a message, let me know you watched this and have questions or would just like to talk about it more. I've over the years have met with many graduate students at the U of R and talked about, my path, and, happy to offer any advice I can, answer any questions I can, or, just talk through what you're thinking, and go from there. That's how I got to where I am, is talking to people at the U of R and alumni. So happy to pay that forward and try to help others.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, I will not skip your question here. So Jacob is a toxicology alum, U of R 2021, currently DART study director at Charles River Laboratories. And he is asking, in your opinion, does the biopharma world allow for flexibility toward career changes, or do you observe more people climb the ladder in the same area?
I know I couldn't go back to a science, a position in R&D or science. I've been too far out of it. But if you have continued in the science and want to switch over to legal, yes, that's a switch that I think can be made, or a switch over into business development or alliance management. I think because the science is really the base that you need and what you build upon to branch out into another career. So no, I think you can make the switch again if you're switching from science to a different career. Again, me being out of science for so long, I think I'd have trouble going back to the bench at this point. But I think there is room for flexibility.
I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So once again, Carissa, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much for tuning in to the latest episode of the Next Step podcast. If you liked what you heard, please share with other members of the University of Rochester community or anyone you think could benefit from these career stories. and we wish you nothing but the best in your own career journey. Until next time.